You mentioned the spot ETF, and I'm actually going to connect this with Catlin Long's bank, Custodia. And it's really interesting
Mhm.
because the Federal Reserve, that they're the ones in charge of issuing the federal bank charters, has slow walked Caitlin. It's basically 2 years. She now currently has a lawsuit, and also on the ETF front, you also have major lawsuits by a lot of the players, a lot of the specifically Grayscale. Now, what's really
Mhm.
interesting though, James, is they've approved futures. So
Yeah, of course they have. It's paper. There's no Bitcoin to settle with it. Look, they. I was actually I was at an event with Michael Saylor a few weeks ago. I talked to him directly about this, and I don't want to quote him, but the point is that, but he's highly confident that once we have regulation around this, that an ETF will get approved, and it'll make it much easier. One of the things that we were talking about, and a big thing, is that FASB report that just came out, because you know you can't, if you're a company and you own Bitcoin, you have to hold it on your balance sheet at either cost or a loss. You cannot mark to market. So there's no benefit for a company to own it
no,
until
but
that
that
goes
that that
through.
changed. That changed though
Yeah,
recently.
exactly. That's the FASB report. That was a
Mm.
huge, huge plus. So I expect to start seeing some companies start to chip away at it. But I don't know when it gets approved, but there will be enough pressure that a spot ETF will be approved. It will. Gary Gensler is, I think he is pro Bitcoin, and he understands it. But there's just, look, think about it. Who doesn't want Bitcoin, right? Who doesn't want
Governments,
it?
governments.
Well, yeah, well, but they could use it to their advantage. They don't want it because they want CBDC, which they can control completely, and that's a whole nother, can of dog poo. But the who doesn't want it is Jamie Dimon. The major banks don't want it. Why? Because it's disruptive. It's disruptive to their perfect fucking yacht making, model. They don't want to have to give back their planes and yachts. They want to keep making as much money as they possibly can in a system that has absolutely benefited them to no end. That's why. So trust me, they're in there they're holding it off, saying, that they're definitely in the ears of regulators, making sure that this is slow footed. That's just what it is. But they're not going to be able to hold it up forever. I don't think that the spot ETF is necessary for Bitcoin to be widespread adopted. I just think it would accelerate it. And I do think that regulation will accelerate it. Of course, the other thing that would accelerate it after, not during, but long after or not very long after, but long after a total collapse of the current system. You know, but you don't think that the Bitcoin won't save you in the middle of a collapse. It will be a different. It'll be we don't want a total collapse. That would be absolute calamity. We would rather have this adopted alongside the idiocy, while the idiocy continues to make itself obsolete. That's what we want to happen.
So, James, going back to the macro situation, right? In specifically the 1970s, there was stagflation, right? High
Yeah.
inflation and almost no economic. The stock market literally went sideways for better part
Mm-hmm.
of almost a decade. We've been in a macro bull market since 2009, and in fact, all my professional career, that's all I know, right? Since 2009, it's literally been a straight. If you look at it, it's literally been a straight line up.
Yeah.
Not in my lifetime. I don't know what it's like to have a sideways stock market for 10 years. Are we entering that stage? Are we in stagflation already?
I think well, yeah. I mean, as soon as the unemployment numbers go up, I mean, that's really stagflation, where you've got a contraction economically, yet prices are going up. So do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. I think that we're going to print. It's not like the 1970s, man. We have so much more debt. It's not that we had 30%, some odd 30% debt to GDP back then. Now we're at 100 and almost 40%. So you're definitely going to have inflation, but I think they're going to have to print. They can't let the economy go into the toilet. They have to make sure the economy doesn't get destroyed. They're trying to save face here. Powell's talking a big game. And I do think they're going to continue raising rates. I don't think they're going to pivot here before the year end. I think they're going to continue raising rates. They're going to continue raising right up until the point where they're about to break something. Well, they got a lot of room in the treasury market still. We got $2.3 trillion of reverse repo money just sloshing around these huge banks every single night. They can do some things, and I put out a post about this. They can do some things. Actually, I'm going to put out a thread about it tomorrow morning. If you don't read my newsletter, I wrote about it, but I'm putting it in a thread form tomorrow morning. You can see it. But there are a few tools they can use in order to combat that, and they're going to use those. And once those are used up, and once you get, unless a shock happens where our treasury market just locks up, then they're going to do these things first, in my opinion, and then they're going to print. Next year they'll pause, they'll pivot, they'll stop their QT. I think that's the first thing they do, which they barely started anyways. They're going to stop selling the treasuries that they have on the Fed's balance sheet, and they're going to step away. And then that's effectively pivot.